Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome to another episode of 100 Days of DevOps. We are in day 60. Yes, and today I will be introducing us to, or I'll be talking about a concept that we're already very familiar with. Right, so we've covered it at some point in this journey. I'm just going to cover it again. And what we are looking at today is containerization, but this time around we're not doing it the normal way. We are looking at it in terms of cloud, in terms of Azure. Like I said a couple of days back, I think when we were doing the networking aspect, I said most of the things that we are doing on Azure are things that we know already. It's like we're just doing the cloud version of those things, right? First off, when we started, we had to set up our virtual machine using the EXSI that we downloaded. Either you're using VirtualBox or you're using VMware. So we had to create a server and all of that. We're doing that on our local PC. Now we are doing on cloud. So it's just like we're repeating the same thing, but in a different way, right? However, the concept is still the same. And I'll just be playing around containers, how to deploy a container, and we'll also be working with container registry. Yes, so we're working with container registry. That's most times we hear of private registry and all of that. Docker is a public registry. Everybody can go to Docker, but you can own your own registry, which is called a private registry. Registry rather. We are going to do that in this video. So join me as we play with containers. So first things first, how do you deploy a container? When we want to deploy a container, normally we use a Docker run and then the name of the image that we want to deploy, right? So to do that on Azure, there's something called container instances, right? So we come and you can type container instances or you can see it here. So when you click on container instances, you see that I have no running container. So to create a running container, you just click on the create and you choose the resource group, container name. You can just do test. You can do test container. You can do test container. Availability zone low. SKU standard. So now you have for the image source, you have three ways you can deploy or you can get images to deploy on your container instance. You can either do a quick start image, you can deploy using your Azure Container Registry, which we are going to cover immediately after this, and then you can use other registry where you can maybe probably you want to maybe integrate it with your Docker Hub and all of that. You can use that. So for the purpose of this video, we're just going to first of all we'll use a quick start image and we can just pick from one of these image. There's a hello world image, there's NGINX image, there is server core LTS image. So these two images are for Linux containers, while this last image is for Windows containers. So we're familiar with NGINX, so I'll just go with NGINX. And you can change the size. This is one vCPU, 1.5 gigabyte memory, 0 GPU. So you can, if you want to change the size, maybe you need a higher size for the workload. Just click on change size, and you can come and edit all of this here, right? So you have 0.1 to 32 CPU cores, and then you have 0.1 to 256 gigs of memory that you can choose from, right? So I'll just click on OK, and um, I'll leave the rest as it is. It's a public image. We leave port 80 open so you can be able to access it. All of these, we just leave all of these the way it is. No, I'll go back. Container instance log. You can enable it, but I don't want to enable it for purpose of this video. And let me confirm if there's another thing. Okay, nothing here. So you can enable or you can, for me, I'm disabling it because I just want to create something like really quick, right? So if you enable this, it's going to create a log analytics workspace, which I've already covered. I believe that by now we know what it means. Yeah, I covered it when we talked about the monitoring in Azure, basically. Yeah, so it will create a log analytic workspace, and I really don't want to waste so much time. So I'm going to uncheck it. Um, okay. When we were working with containers, remember we talked about restart policy, and I said we have different restart policies. We have on failure, we have always, and we have never. Right. So you have that option here also. So let's leave it as on failure, and there's nothing else to do here. So you click on tags and review and create. So Azure will review all the selections, and then we'll be able to create. Okay, let's go ahead and create our instance. So once we create this, it will be running. So it is equivalent to the Docker run that you normally type on your CLI when you want to run a Docker, when you want to run a container from an image. Right? So this is equivalent to that, and then we'll see how we can access that image, from our personal computer. So let's just give it a while for the image to get created. So once we're able to do that, I would delete the container, and then we'll work with Azure Container Registry. Yeah. So you can, if you want to read more on containers, container instance, and all of that, you can come and search for Azure Container Instance. You can just do Azure Container, there's container apps, there's container registry, concept, container instances. So once you click on it, you just come here and you choose the first one. This is documentation. You can either come to the documentation, and or you can come to this, any one of your choice. So you click on it, and you can see how to deploy a container using the CLI. You can see how to deploy a container on the portal and on the PowerShell, Bicep, and template, and even Terraform. So you can explore all of these, and um yeah, just explore it, go through the documentation, you can practice, and get a hang of it, get a feel of it, deploy different containers of your choice, and just get familiarized with how to deploy a container. So I believe our deployment should have been complete. Okay, so let me go to the resource. So this is our container, is our container instance, right? So if we go to container, I should say test container, and the image is NGINX. You can see the image here, and the state is running, right? State is running. So I think these are the events of the container. It pulled, you can see here, it pulled the image, and it started the container. So you can check the properties of the container. You can also check logs of the container once logs are available. So how then do we access this container? Of course, the container will have its IP. So all we need to do is just go to the overview, and you can see public IP here. You can see public IP address. So we just pick the public IP. We'll go to our browser and we put it. And when I enter it, I won't be able to access it. And why is that? That is because NSG has blocked. Oh, I was able to access it. Okay, I think that's okay. Well, oh, we allowed the port 80. Good. Okay. I forgot that we allowed port 80. So yes, we allowed port 80, and we're able to access NGINX container. So if you see this page, the NGINX web server is successfully installed and working, right? So that is basically on a high level, or on a basic level. That is how you deploy a container in Microsoft Azure. So you can either have you can run test container images, or you pick from your Azure Container Registry, or you connect it with an external container registry. Then you pull images from there, or you get images from there, and then you can run. If something you want to quickly do, you can just run it quick. So that is that for container instances. There's also container groups. There's container apps, so you can explore more on that, right? So I'm just going to delete. I'm going to stop this container. I'll stop this container, and I'll delete it. So I'm deleting this container. So I'll go to my Azure, check my resource group, and I do not have the container there again. So the next thing I'm going to quickly talk about is container registries, right? Like I said, we're going to look at containerization, which we've looked at container, and then another thing we'll look at is container registries, right? So you click on container registries. This is similar to your Azure registry, where you know what a registry is, where you store images, right? You store images and then you can pull images from there and you can access those images. So you can run those images. So to create a registry is also simple. So create, I click on create and you choose the resource group, registry name. So this registry name now, it has to be unique to you, right? When I logged into my Docker Hub, if you want to push to, let's say when I wanted to push to my own registry, and I believe you must have tried it, you had to use your username, then dot docker, I think dot docker.io, right? So it is similar here. Registry name will be the your name dot az Azure CL, that's Azure Container Registry dot io. So it's almost similar to Docker. So the domain name, we leave everything the way it is, and yeah, so we just leave everything the way it is. The registry domain name is this. So this is what you are going to use when you want to push the image to this container registry. So okay, that's okay. We don't have the privilege of choosing any options there because for you to choose an option, you have to be on a premium pricing plan, and we are not on a premium pricing plan. So all the rest, you just leave it as is. So let's wait for Azure to run a validation check. So it's passed and let's create a container registry. So once we create a container registry, we can now start doing things on the registry. Okay. So if you want to get a documentation on that, you can also come here and type container registry and you click on it. Then you can get the documentation. You can get the documentation. Either you use learn.microsoft.com or you use azure.microsoft.com. Anyway, the major thing is for you to be able to get what you want and for you to be able to do what you want to do. But then I'll go with the documentation and this is okay. It allows you build, store, manage container images and artifacts in a private registry for all types of container deployment. So this is a private registry, like I said. It is not a public registry like Docker, right? It's a private registry, and then you can do quick starts. You can check how to create a container registry on the CLI, the portal, PowerShell, iTemplates, ARM templates, biceps, and all of that. So you can go through this documentation. If there's anything you want to do that you're stuck, I'm sure you'll be able to find your way from all of this. Like I always say, Azure has really done a good job with creating proper documentations for us to be able to do whatever we want to do. That's another reason why I really like working with Azure, right? So let's see if our registry has been provisioned. Okay, so let's go to our registry. This is the overview of registry. So you wouldn't really see much here other than the login server, the subscription and all of that. So what we need is this under services, right? This is where we want to go to. Under services, you can see repositories. So for repository, this is where your image is actually stored. Now we do not have any image in our repository. We have not pushed any image to our repository. So in order to push an image to our repository, we have to do it using the CLI because there's no option for us to push an image to repository on the portal. So you have to do that on the CLI. So we are going to go to our CLI and we're going to try and push our image. So let's go back to registry and you can either use your VM or you can use VS Code or you can even use CMD, whichever one you want to use. Whichever one Docker has been configured on, you can use this. For me, I'm going to use CMD. The commands are still the same. It still works the same way. So when I do Docker-v to check the version, so Docker is installed on my PC. So I'm going to pull our logger image. Let me go to my Docker Hub account, and then I'm going to pull that image. And then what we'll do is that we'll pull the image, we'll tag it uh with our what do you call it now? The private repository name, and then we'll push the private repository, and then we'll see if we can be able to let me sign out. So this is not my personal Docker Hub. This is not where the image is. So I need to sign into the repository that the image is, or the account that the image is. So you can check the documentation, you can play around with it, use the CLI and all of that. So while this is coming up, I think this is a bit slow. If it doesn't come up, I'll just check any image that is on my PC, and then we'll just work with that. So we don't drag with this video. So the first thing you want to do when you build a new repository, sorry, a new registry rather. The first thing you want to do is you want to connect your CLI to that repository. You want to connect if you're using a VM, if you're using the CMD on your laptop computer, you want to connect to that repository remotely. And how do you do that? You do ACR login. AZ ACR login. ACR means Azure Container Registry, right? So you do AZ ACR login, and then you put the name of your container registry, which the one that you named it, not with the not with the Azure CR.io, just the name that you typed when you were creating the registry. So when you click on enter, you give it a while. It will try to confirm that that registry exists. It authenticates, and once it has been authenticated successfully, you will see login successful. Right. So let's give it a few seconds for it to confirm that that registry actually exists. Sorry. So I think Docker Hub is a little bit slow at this point. So once I'm able to authenticate, what I'll do is that I'll just check. Okay, good. So we have login succeeded, right? So login succeeded. So I'm not going to wait for Docker Hub to come up. I'm just going to check my images that are already on my PC, and then just use one for it. So let me do Docker images, and I have um okay, let's try this clinic flow. Let's try this clinic flow hyphen web if it's going to work. So what we'll do first is that we'll tag the image. We'll tag the image. So we'll do docker tag, then we'll get the image name. It's flow, clinic flow hyphen web. The version is version 1, I believe. Yes, that's V1. So now I'm going to tag it with my repository server name. How do you get your server name? You come to this place. And in the overview, this is your login server. So you get this name, which is what it is. Okay, so you copy it, and then you come to your command prompt and you paste. Then you now put the name of the image, just the way you tag an image normally, right? So just to um, clinic flow in web, let's do version, let's do v3, right? So we are tagging it version 3. So I'm going to tag that image with our login server, and then um, so that has been tagged. So let's confirm Docker images. Let's look for it. Where is it? Where is it? Okay, so here it is. So this is it here. So we've successfully tagged it. So we'll just push the way we normally do. So we'll do Docker push, and I'm just going to bring this back, and I'll just change this to push. Docker push this image. It's just exactly the same thing we do when we are working with Docker, right? So it's going to push this image. It's going to try and connect with the image, and then it will push the image there. Just for if you want to also push to your Docker repository, the first thing you have to do is to log in, right? You log into the registry first, which is exactly what we did. We logged into the registry, and then now we've tagged an image, and then we are pushing. So it works the same way. The only difference is that instead of pushing to Docker Hub, which is the public registry, you're pushing to your private registry on Azure, right? So once we push this successfully to our registry, then we can now deploy. We'll see how we can deploy the image from using Azure Container Instance again. But this time around, we're not going to use the quick image. We'll use from our container registry. And then I'll show you how to deploy it. So let's give it a sec. I think this might take a while. All right, so our image has been pushed to our registry. So let's confirm that that image now exists in our. So you come back to repository and click on it. So we should see that image. So now we have the image here. So this is the clinic flow web. And once I click on it, I should see the version that was pushed. So version 3. So the more you push images, it's just the same thing with Docker Hub. The more you push images with different versions, the more you see the different versions that you can actually work with. So now we have this image. Let's now go ahead to deploy this image using Azure Container Instance. So we go back to Container Instances. Okay. So we create a container instance. I've deleted the one we did with NGINX. And let's wait for the resource group to come up. We choose the resource group. We choose the container name. Let's do clinic flow. Just use clinic flow. And then we'll deploy it to availability zone. We leave everything the way it is. This time around, instead of choosing quick start image, we use Azure Container Registry. So it has picked our registry because that is the only registry that we have. However, we are getting an error here. Admin user must admin user must first be enabled for this registry in order to access the image during the container instance creation. Now remember that this is a private registry. So for you to be able to access this registry, there has to be like some configurations with the admin user and all of that. So I'm just going to click on learn about the admin user in HCR, and we'll see how we can be able to activate it. So you can activate it using the CLI. It's just click on Azure ACR update -n, and then admin dash enabled true. So you can just copy it. I think there are other ways in which you can authenticate, but this is what Microsoft has told us to do. So you come to your command prompt and you paste it. So I'm going to go and change the name. The name is Vetrax, and we'll update this. So we'll update this, and let's wait for that to be done. And once that is done, we'll see if we can be able to have access to this So I believe that was successful. Yeah, so I want to believe that was successful. So if not, we would get an error. So let me go back here and we'll try and create again. We'll try and create again, and this time let's see if we get something different. So we'll choose the resource group, and so I'm going to do. So you can see now we do not have that error. We have the name automatically picked. We have the image automatically picked because we only have one image, and we have the version automatically, the tag automatically picked because we only have one registry, one image, and one tag. If we had 2 to 3 images, we would see the list. When we click on the drop down, it will show us the different list of images that we have as well as their image tag. So the OS we're using is Linux, and we are not going to change anything. We'll leave it. No, I think we need to go and change that log. So port 80 is enabled, and I'll turn this off again. I think that is basically all. So let Azure review the our setup, and then we can create the container instance, and then we'll see how to access it, right? Obviously we already know how to access it, right? So I just want to finish the deployments from start to end so that at least it will be a good way, a good point to call it a day. Let's give it a few seconds for it to actually work. So while that is actually being provisioned, you can take our time, like I said, go through the documentations. For the admin user, I believe there are more secure ways to actually activate that because we just did um, for you to disable, for you to what did we even do again, self? I think we enabled it. Yes, for us to enable admin user, I think it's not the best for production. From a little I understand, that it's not the best for when you're working in a production environment. What you want to do is that you want to actually use RBAC. That's you want to implement identity and access management on the user, maybe create a managed identity, you understand, and then try to access it. These are things that I've actually talked about. So I've talked about managed identity and all of that. So you can create that and use it instead of using the admin user. But for the purpose of this video, we'll just try and make it as simple and seamless as possible. So we'll go to the resource, and our container has been created. So it said one or more of these container Infinite flow are in waiting state and may not be running. Click here to view container status. So let's go and click if there's an issue with the container. Let's see. Restart event detected. Okay, so container cleaning flow terminated with exit code. So I think there's an issue with, let me check the logs. If there are logs, there are no logs available. Okay. I think there's an issue with the image itself, not the container. So you can always troubleshoot that. If we try to access it, I don't think we will be able to access it because the container is having some issues. But let me try. Let me try if we can access the container. So if we're not able to access it, all well and good. But the main thing is that so we are not able to access the container. There's an issue with the image and not the container. So when if we work with a proper image, that's what I wanted to pull the one we've been working with since and then deploy it. But Docker really had a different plan for us at this point. But nevertheless, at least I've been able to show how you can deploy with a container instance, how you can access your container, and also I've been able to show us how to create a registry, how to push images to the registry, and then how to deploy from the registry. So I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I hope that you've learned one or two things from this video. If you have, kindly give this video a thumbs up. You can also share it with those people that are interested in learning about Azure, learning about DevOps, and subscribe to my channel, and most importantly, you can turn on the notification bell so that you get the next video that I upload Once I do that, then you can watch it and you can add to your knowledge. So till we meet again, enjoy the rest of the day. Cheers.